Hey, Jen Grover, were you asleep? I thought you were supposed to be working on your YouTube video.
You caught me. I was asleep. I was having a really bad dream.
You need to tell me about that. Dreams are very insightful. I cannot wait to hear what you were dreaming about.
I I was dreaming about the first 5 mistakes I made as a new RV owner.
Oh, yeah. Do tell. Do tell. I want to hear all about this.
Wait, what was that?
I heard a bell ring. You know, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings.
No, silly. Every time the bell rings, it's because a new YouTube subscriber has hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video. You have
Ah,
subscribed to my channel, haven't you?
of course I have. Of course. Months ago. I think I was, well, it doesn't matter, but of course I have. So I'll be getting a bell ring in a few weeks after you get this video posted, I'm sure.
Well, good, because I would tell you to stop what you're doing and subscribe right now if you hadn't.
I'm taking care of Maul Golden.
Well, I got to tell you about this dream I had because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to get it out of my head. I'm going to be paranoid. I'm going to make these mistakes all over again. The first, everybody makes mistakes when they first bring their RV home. Everybody. And
Of
your
course.
hope is that it's not too costly, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you spend a lot of money on a camper and you bring it home and you're just sort of enthralled with how cute it is and perfect. And until you make that first whatever mistake and get that first scratch, dent, blemish, or just do something really stupid. When I brought my tab home from the dealer, I really didn't understand the whole hitching and unhitching part very well at all. The dealer showed me, but you're so overwhelmed with everything they're sharing with you at once that you miss a lot. And so I was backing it into my yard, which in and of itself was quite a sight to behold because I was really bad. And I've got a narrow alley in my backyard. It was not easy, but I finally get it into its place, and I try to unhitch it, and it won't unhitch. And I'm like, oh, good grief. I had thought, well, maybe I need to be in a better spot. So I went to move the tab. Don't you know it? I'd put the tongue jack down on the front of the trailer jack, and had
Yeah.
forgot to roll it up when I went to move it. And I bent it. And so here I was thinking it's going to be this horrible mistake. It's going to be so expensive, so difficult. How am I even going to get it to the dealer to fix? Well, it turns out that was really easy to fix. It was a $50 part, and it's yeah, not bad at all. And only 3 bolts to unbolt, pop the old one out, pop the new one on, put the bolts back on, and that was it. Not complicated. I was really thankful because, you're brand new trailer and you've bent the tongue jack. Like, what a goofy mistake.
So that sounds like it was pretty easy for you to fix, even not really knowing a lot about taking care of a trailer. So that was a benign mistake, not too bad, but something I bet happens to a lot of new owners.
Yeah, well, the next mistake I made is even more common, and it's almost like a rite of passage for a first-time RV owner, and that is that you kill the battery. You see it,
Yeah.
especially in the spring when everybody's bringing home their new camper and they go to use it and they're like, nothing works. Well, you've probably killed your battery. When I bought my tab, it didn't come with a battery cutoff switch. They now come with a battery cutoff switch. So I would have actually had to pull a fuse to get it to not drain the battery. And so I didn't do that. I did install a battery switch shortly after that. Now they all come with battery switches. So, and even with a battery switch, it can be easy to forget to flip it off and kill your battery. It's a common mistake. And the you get from a dealer is typically a small battery. It's like a 75 to 100 amp hour battery. So there isn't a lot of life in them to begin with. You can sometimes bring them back with a battery charger, but a lot of times people kill it to the point that it's just dead because they leave it on and it depletes it and they don't check it for days or weeks.
Yes. Do you have it feels like you ought to have a checklist of the things you do as you're, parking and setting up and the things that you do, especially as you're getting ready to tear down and move on.
The tab community, long before I bought a tab, the original Dutchman tab owners created, they called it a ready, set, tow checklist. And it had a checklist. Yeah, it had a checklist for what to do when you get to a campsite and what to do when you leave a campsite. So it helped prevent you from making mistakes. And I use that religiously for the first 2 or 3 years I bought my tab, because I knew I would make a mistake if I didn't have a checklist. Inevitably, people want to talk to you about your camper, and it's never at a convenient time. They think the tabs are so cute, so they want to ask about it, and it disrupts your process, and the checklist really keeps you on track.
That makes sense to me.
The next one is really crazy, though, because I think we all do it. We're usually rushing to set up before it gets dark, and we just don't stop to think. And that is, I fully disconnected my trailer from my tow vehicle, plugged in the electric, plugged in the water before I checked to see if there was actually power or water at the pedestal. And I've done it where the power pedestal at the campground didn't work, and also where the water didn't work. Now, when I got to your house and spent the weekend there and plugged in Maddie Ross, I had Don Lamb's help. So I was in great shape. We ran the extension cord for the power, and we made sure it worked, and we filled the freshwater tank with water. But when you're at a campground, and especially if you're on your own, you just plug in and get it set, and boom, it was getting dark. And by the time I realized there was no power, it was dark. So I had to pack everything up, connect it, and switch sites. What a pain. Always check those things first.
And you wouldn't think about that. Like, I wouldn't think about that. I would do the same thing. So it's a very easy mistake to make, I'm sure.
Yeah, but these are the things that nightmares are made of, right? Not really. These are mostly benign problems that new owners have, but they're very common, and they can be avoided if you know about them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The next one is one you see on Facebook all the time. People post a question about, what should I get for my tab? It's coming to the dealer in a month, or I'm picking it up next week. And the owner community is so great, and everybody has their own should have list. I just actually made a video with the 10 things that a new RV owner should buy before they bring their new RV home. And I stuck to the essentials. I didn't stick to the extras, but just the things you would need to use your tanks, your power, to set up your campsite for the first time. And because you can spend so much money on junk you'll never need, you really need to make sure that you experiment camping a couple times, and then you'll know what you need.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually go light initially based on your experience, go shopping and, pick up the things you need. So that makes a lot of sense to me. That's true in all parts of life, really, not just with camping. So I like that tip. That's brilliant.
Well, sure. Everybody shares what they think you need based on how they camp, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't camp like a lot of people. I was more of a traveler than a true camper. I've sort of evolved over the years and become a little bit more of a camper than just a traveler, but I was getting things that I never used. In my first couple trips, I brought things that never saw the light of day. And I still do that, and I'm always tweaking what I bring. So the temptation to get too much stuff is huge. Well, you moved into a tiny house.
Yes. Yeah. And I was thinking, as you were talking, Jen, about traveling like internationally, I have gotten myself down to traveling with just a little day pack. And even so, no matter how long the trip, even so at the end, it's like, okay, is there something in here I didn't use? And the next time, oh, Net, you don't need to take that. So absolutely, every experience teaches you something new, and really often something you do not need to have with you. You just don't need it. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, that even a person that's hauling their home behind them would still buy too much stuff and bring too much stuff. And then what do you do with it? Where are you going to store it when you're traveling and you're like, I haven't used this my whole trip and I still have to haul it around? So makes a lot of sense for sure.
Well, you should see the back of my Jeep when I travel. Nina comes and she reorganizes everything, but it's packed. Even when it's just me, it's packed. And poor little Rocky, sometimes I think he barely has any space.
It is funny. Like, what we think is necessary is really crazy. And then you learn, it's like, I don't need that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
The last mistake I made really did wake me up out of a dream. And that was when I took my first cross-country trip, and I pulled into this campground, beautiful Corps of Engineer campground in Manhattan, Kansas. It was 90 plus degrees, 90+% humidity. It was just sticky and yucky. And I was right by the water. So it was beautiful. But I wanted to rush to take a photograph of the sunset. And I didn't actually really get a very good shot because it was too late. But then it was dark. So I didn't want to, and I was leaving early the next morning. So I didn't want to unhitch my Jeep from the trailer, which you don't have to do. But there are some things, especially with the older tabs that have the window style air conditioner. If you aren't level, that's going to leak into the camper. And I was not level, I was front to back. So all that water, instead of draining down the drip tube like it should have, poured out into the camper and on top of me while I slept. So here it was like 3 a.m. I wake up, I'm wet, the camper's bench seat was wet, and I couldn't continue to run the air conditioning because it's leaking. I didn't know why it was leaking. I thought I had a broken air conditioner. No user air. And I just had to turn off the AC and wait till morning. Now, thankfully, it dried out. No damage was done due to my air. But people who have that window style air conditioner don't realize you really need to be level. Actually, it doesn't hurt to have the driver's side be a little higher and a little, Actually, it doesn't hurt with that window style air conditioner to have the driver's side be a little lower, especially in the front left corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, none of those mistakes were life-changing or did permanent damage to my tab. I'm so thankful, because that would have been heartbreaking. But there's the type of things that, as a new owner, when you're a little overwhelmed with trying to learn everything, can really throw you off and feel like, did I make a mistake? And can I really do this? And the answer is yes. We all learn from those mistakes. You know what? One of my favorite things is when other tab owners or other RV owners share their first mistakes, because the stories can be pretty hilarious. My favorite involved a woman locking herself out of her camper in the middle of nowhere and having a woman repeatedly stop and ask to use the bathroom in her camper while she was waiting for someone to help her unlock her RV. And she kept telling her, it's locked, I can't get in. This woman kept stopping, not concerned about the fact that this woman was locked out of her. Right.
Yeah.
But our tab community is great at sharing our lessons. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and we get a good laugh out of it. So I'm hoping when I post the video about this, that people will share in the comments below the video exactly what they did that were their first mistakes and how they've learned from it, so we can all learn and laugh together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was really nice hearing about these mistakes. I learned from listening to you. You'll never make those mistakes again. So you learn by making them, but sharing them for the whole community is a really helpful thing. So
absolutely. I'm really glad we talked about this, because now I feel better about this dream and I can let it go and move on with my day. I hope it's helpful to other people too when I share my stories.
Absolutely. I know it will be.
All right. I'll talk to you next week, Nat.
All right, Jen Grover. Bye.
Bye.